Everybody, and welcome to our new negotiation practice community event, Beyond Assertiveness, Understanding and Overcoming Bullying. And it's very lovely to have you all here. This call is recorded and also screencasted to LinkedIn. If you are watching from LinkedIn and have a question, please put it in the chat of LinkedIn. And when there's a QA time, I will address your questions. And also, if you would like to join on Zoom and ask our guest a question today, and I will introduce Kate in a second. So if you would like to ask a question, please join us on Zoom. And I already put the Zoom link in the chat, and I see that a number of people joining us here. That's great. So just one thing, when you actually joining, stay muted, and when you would like to ask a question, unmute yourself, ask a question, and mute yourself back, so we don't have any noise from background noise. And I see people keep joining our Zoom call. Please join us at any point and join our conversation. The link is in the comments of LinkedIn. Okay, and today we have a very special guest, and I'm so honored because today we have a licensed psychotherapist and author, Kate Cohen-Posey, and Kate has master's degree in community mental health, Northern Illinois University, and she taught elementary and high school for 3 years, and she is a licensed psychotherapist since 1973. And a presenter at national and international conferences. And Kate is also an author of 3 books, How to Handle Bullies, Teasers, and Other Minis, Making Hostile Words Harmless, A Guide to the Power of Positive Speaking, and Bullyproof, Empower Yourself Without Overpowering Others. And Kate would be putting those links in the chat if you want to go on and get those books on Amazon. Please do, and look in the Zoom chat, and also I will be copying them and putting them in the chat of LinkedIn as well. And what I also want to say that Kate is a master host in the negotiation practice community. So every Sunday, Kate hosts a session for free to people who wants to overcome bullying and get better and feeling more confident, more empowered. And every Sunday, it's a very empowering conversation with many takeaways. So reach out to join us on Negotiation Practice Community Facebook page if you want. Kate actually posts there quite frequently. I put the link into the chat of Zoom, and also I will put it into the chat of the LinkedIn, so you could actually join us there. And also, Kate is a member of a Facebook Bullyproof group where many people talking about that. And also, you can reach Kate by email. And Kate, I also have your email. I will put it in the chat. So if you have any question, any comment, please do join us and ask Kate questions. Kate, it's so lovely to have you here. I'm so honored that you join us and share your wisdom here.
I'm so glad to be here, Vlad.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. And let's, for a start, what exactly, could you kind of give us a background? What exactly bullying is and how it's different from other types of aggression?
The number one difference in my book is that it's verbal aggression. So if somebody gives you a punch or they hit you or whatever, that's an assault. And that's a little beyond what we do. But there are many kinds of verbal aggression. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. So there are many kinds of verbal aggression. I lump them all as critical, controlling, and I've included complaining also. And maybe it would be good to think about, why would complaining be actually a controlling behavior? Because people are wanting to get you to give them reassurance or something like that. So bullying, that's kind of an abstract word, but I think everybody knows what critical words are, controlling words are, what complaining is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, uh, could you give us a little bit more of how you classify this controlling behavior? Are there any types? Maybe you can go a little bit deeper into this topic. Um, what it looks like. Maybe you could give us some examples.
Sure. So controlling behavior would be giving people orders. You have to get me a glass of water. You know, that's something parents often do to kids. Making it demands is controlling, like get that report done in 3 hours. My husband keeps messing with my lighting. Um, so interrogating might be, one question after another. Why did you do that? What's wrong with you? So that could be considered controlling. And so critical behavior um, is criticism, making accusations. Um, oh, another subtle controlling behavior is making suggestions. You should do this. Why don't you raise your children differently? Why don't you, why do you let your children talk back to you like that? It's actually controlling behavior. And um, threats, of course, are controlling. Um, but criticizing can be name calling, blaming. So many different kinds of behaviors.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And what, in my experience, what I, I really appreciate that because when I grew up, um, I was teased a lot at school, and I'm sure that most of this behavior, happening in school, we kind of learn that there. And then when we learn, we go to our corporate environment and we kind of start to kind of use that again and kind of perpetuate that and kind of getting a little bit better at this, a little bit more subtle, a little bit more sophisticated, but those habits stay. And I remember when I was at school, I was teased a lot for my big ears, and it was very horrible to me. It's like almost like everyone who was stronger than me took pride of teasing me for my big ears. and and
Mhm.
now I'm laughing about it, but it was hard. But I'm wondering what what the uh, what the concept of bullying has with emotions. For example, when you're talking about making suggestions, some of the suggestions could be taken really well, and people will say like, well, that's not really a controlling behavior, it's really a helpful behavior. But the other behavior could be controlling. Like, how does it work in
Well, I think you're bringing up a really important difference. If you ask for advice and ask for suggestions, that's fine if somebody gives you a suggestion. But it's the unsolicited advice or suggestions or, you know, and sometimes it might be a good one, but also when somebody just jumps in right away with advice and suggestions, they're not really seeing you. So and all of us many times want to give advice and suggestions, but before we do that, we need to really see the person and say, oh, gosh, that feels, you must feel so disrespected when your children talk to you like that. What's it like for you? Yeah. And I notice you shut down and you're quieter. I notice you yell at them, whatever. Before you give any suggestions, it's just observing what they're doing.
yeah, that's really important. And I'm wondering how easy people could get into that, because I know, and I'm probably a offender myself. everybody want to give an advice, everybody want to help, everybody want to, project their opinion, and many times it could be inadvertent
Hmm.
when people just make a comment like, "Oh, you should have done this," but they don't realize what kind of impact they make. And as a psychotherapist with such a vast experience, like, what do you see? How does it affect people? How, scientifically, could you give us some um, perspective of what happens when people receive that kind of comment?
Well, glad you said that. I was a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm also a marriage and family therapist. And one of the most common patterns, well, what happens in a relationship is there's an attack cycle, attack, defend, pursue, distance. So when people give advice, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? They're pursuing. And the other person is either going to respond by saying, don't tell me what to do, which is an order, or they may just shut down and say, okay, but they're just trying to get you off their back.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. And sometimes it becomes so emotionally difficult to get somebody pursuing you and giving you orders, and then you kind of need to figure out like, how can I get out of it? Because
And I think I might have missed your question, but the emotional impact when you get advice and like you're not ready to hear it is that you feel you want to shut down a little bit, or you want to disagree with the person, or you feel unseen. So it's so important to match where people are emotionally. And this might be a little too scientific, but there's something called the refractory period. And that's when other people are emotional. They cannot take in any words that don't match what you're feeling.
hmm
So if you say, oh, my boss ran the whole meeting, nobody could get a word in edgewise. And if you say, well, you should raise your hand or you should speak up, you're not seeing them at all. And instead, if you say, yeah, that feels really lousy when somebody does that, and it's just like makes you want to tune out or whatever, you have to match what they're feeling before you
Exactly.
can give any ideas.
Exactly, exactly. So essentially, when people feel not being heard, when they feel being controlled, they they experience emotional stress.
Hmm.
And I just want to give an idea what bullyproof is like to people. Like, I want them to understand, what do you do with that? So there are two things where you shut down, or you
Hmm.
try to attack them back, or you try to, you know, but is there a third way? How to do it gracefully?
Yeah, so the striking back or shutting down, that's the attack defense cycle. And I used to think, well, that's just our animal instinct. So how can we make another response? But we have another instinct, and that's seeking behavior. In fact, we have two other instincts. I came across another one recently so all animals seek. So people who aren't non-human animals generally are seeking food and shelter. They may be seeking food. Humans, we seek food and shelter, but we want to make meaning out of things. Cats, of course, can be very curious, but they don't have a verbal behavior. So seeking is curiosity. The other behavior that humans have, and I want to say all mammals have this behavior, is caretaking. It's like a befriend and friend cycle. And so if we can tap into empathy, and if you can even be empathetic towards somebody who's coming at you, it's a big ask. And a lot of people, I can't do it. So,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so we are talking about how to actually enable that in a
mhm.
stressful situation, and how not to be a victim, how not to be a victim of the person who is getting used to. provide those comments or kind of controlling you. And bulletproof is about empowering yourself and being more confident in the moment when you don't feel vulnerable, you don't feel, so you kind of like disarming them. So I like this word disarming. And I'm wondering, Kate, I'm wondering, how would you explain it easier to people what bulletproof is, like in the ABC, so it will be understood by
Well,
uh,
let me backtrack a little bit on something you said, like you want to use the seeking behaviors or the curious behaviors. But I'm recently realizing I learn a lot from my Zoom group. And to be able to do this, because it is so hard, you need to be able to do two things. First, you need to accept yourself just as you are. So if somebody says to me, I can't believe you came 10 minutes late to my appointment, I would say, well, you're absolutely right. I suck with time. I accept that quality myself. So you need to accept yourself just as you are. And then the other thing is you really need to not judge the judger. It's the hardest thing in the world to do. He shouldn't be acting like this. People are who they are. They are going to be who they are going to be. And when you can accept that, then you don't have a need to change them. So disarming is not about changing anybody. So I say I have 4 moves. And the first one is words of affirmation, which is agreeing with people. It's really one of the easiest ones. Um, Admiring them, complimenting. I'm sorry, I have to look at my cheat sheet. Um,
of course.
Agreeing, appreciating, saying thank you. And if you're at fault, just admitting you're right, I was late. I bet that's really hard for you, you
Yeah.
know. So that's the first kind of response. The second one is asking questions, and the questions need to be from a genuinely curious place. So you're telling me an idiot. Um, how is that helping you? Or what is it like for you to call me an idiot? You know, it's just being really curious. And then the third one is because I come from a counseling background, I call it active listening. In negotiation, you call it labeling, which is naming what people are doing in various kinds of ways. And then the fourth one is sneaking in hints and humor. So
Hmm.
that one's a little harder to explain,
Hmm.
but it's better to understand it through
So,
example.
but it is a skill that people can learn.
Yes, and the interesting thing is that when you do the easier response, like you can agree with anything in factor theory. You can throw out a label like one of my clients, her husband, everybody uses the word narcissist lately. I think her husband is way beyond narcissist. And so he was saying about her daughter, um, I don't know, he was saying something to the daughter about you're an absolutely awful child for having so many French fries on your plate. And when I was role playing it with the mother, the only thing I could do is what in negotiation we call throwing out a mirror. Horrible. You know, and so the mother, and I told the mother, you need to draw the fire to you because your 9-year-old child isn't going to be able to handle this. But when you draw the fire to you, you're modeling bullying. So I think I keep getting away from your question. So you might need to pull
You're
me.
providing you're providing great examples, Kate. It's actually getting real when you give those examples, and that's absolutely true. So my dilemma at school was whether I become a victim of those bullies or I stand up for myself and say something, but I didn't want to irritate them because they were stronger than me. I didn't want to, attack them or whatever because that. That was not my goal, but I want to be respectfully standing up for myself. So I'm wondering that the first choice when I decide not to deal with this, how does being victim actually perpetuating bullying?
Well, that goes back to that pursue distance cycle. So when you don't say anything, if you shut down, a bully will keep coming after you. And so, and there are studies where I want to say mega bullies, like men who are in prison, and they watch people walking on the street, and they do this independently, and they will all pick the same person that they would mug or attack or something because they see it in posture. So, how did you respond when people told you your ears were too big?
Aggressively.
Oh, you
Usually
did.
aggressive, usually aggressively, frowning face, answering some, in a rude way to them, uh, um, you
You
know,
might have attacked them back.
attack them back, pointing out their deficiencies, and all. Yeah, I don't remember that because I'm over 50 now, but most
Yeah.
likely it
But
was
you
like
know
that.
you were aggressive. A
Yeah.
frowning face, I'm not sure if that's aggressive, but that would be something where the bully knows that they've got you and they'll keep coming after you.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
then we know Vlad, we can pick on him for his ears, and they keep doing it.
Hmm.
So if you had said, oh, you noticed, good for you.
Hmm.
You planning a future career in audiology. It's always
Yeah,
good these big words.
exactly. And it's interesting. None of my relatives, none of my friends could give me that answer. N nobody would actually give me the answer that would disarm people. It's
Mhm.
crazy. Like I had so many people around me, none of the people could give me a good advice, unfortunately.
So you actually ask people, what should I do?
Yeah, of
And the
course.
most common advice is ignore it. Sticks and stones
Exactly.
will break your bones. Or the other common advice is, well, don't let people push you around. Let them
Hmm.
know. But you are so much stronger. One of the most wonderful examples I have of this is when I had a group of teenagers, and all the kids in the group had been sexually abused. And none of them wanted to talk about their abuse. They wanted to talk about all the names they were getting called in school. And they all thought that it was everybody knew what had happened to them. And they didn't, but they thought, oh, I'm a mark because what happened. So there was this one girl, and I've had a few clients that, and even children who naturally know how to do this. So this one client, she's African American, but she always dressed to the T. Should wear pearls. She dressed like she was having lunch with the Queen of England. So who do you think gave her a hard time? The white kids or the black kids?
Yeah, similar. People like she's trying to show off and she's
Right. So it
yeah.
was the black kids. So one day these two girls pushed her down a flight of stairs. She got herself up and she said, I just want to thank you guys. And the next time I go on a trip, I'm going to give you a call. And other kids were around and they said, ooh, she got you. And she walked off feeling really good, even though she might have been a little banged up.
Yeah.
So another story, a sixth grade girl comes to see me, and she's overweight. She doesn't dress well. She wears glasses. She has everything that a bully's going to pick on. So she says to me, Miss Posey, there's a boy in my class who tells me I'm a fat, ugly cow. And I tell him, you have issues. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how did you learn to do this? And she says, sometimes the teacher is talking and he'll say fat, and I say issues. So she's keeping the focus on him. She's not shutting down. She's not defending him. She's not telling him to stop calling her names. She's not telling him to stop being mean. Because when you say, stop being mean, stop calling me names, you're giving an order. you're playing by their rules. But she says, oh, you have issues. What can someone say?
Right. What it feels like. Yeah, what it's like
Uh-huh,
what it's like to be you.
uh-huh.
Yeah. So yeah, that's very interesting. So we actually have some questions already, and I wanted to get to that. But before we move forward, I wanted to remind everybody that this is a negotiation practice community event. And if you are watching on LinkedIn and not a member of Negotiation Practice Community yet, you actually can join us, and I will send the link in the chat so you can check it out. It's 1 month free. You can join and figure out what is it about. You can go to the Kate sessions, and also if you learn something, if you want to learn something about negotiation, you can also it's the right place and you can learn and practice. Remember, knowing what to do is one thing, but doing it's a different thing. So the biggest gap in the world is the gap between knowing and doing. So this is where we close that gap. And Kate does this beautifully related to the disarming people. And one thing I would like to add about negotiation is you cannot really get into agreement with the bully. If there is disrespect, if they disrespect you, they will disrespect your agreement. So first you need to disarm them. You need to gain respect. You get to go to the place of respect, stop bullying, agree about how you communicate, and then you can get to any other agreements. So disarming is the first thing. So don't try to negotiate with a tracker, except
Mhm.
getting back to respect. So that's the first thing. And okay, thank you very much for doing that. The first question we have is from Sophie, and I'm not sure if Sophie is on the call in the Zoom, probably not. So I will just read it from here. How far do you think you should go with assertive suggestions in the boss-employee conversation when you're in the boss position? So how assertive you should be if you're the boss?
Okay, it would be good to have an example, but I would say, again, first is okay, so maybe as a boss, your worker isn't doing their job right. Maybe Sophie will type in a couple of other details.
Yeah, I think this is a good um, example. Maybe you're frustrated with your employee and you're saying, well, you have to finish that report tonight.
Right. So first, I would start with a compliment, like, I imagine you've been working hard on that report. So allowing them to feel seen. When I say, I imagine you've been working hard on that report, what word am I using as a boss to kind of protect myself? And you want to answer that or?
Yeah, well, my first reaction would be like, yeah, this is very important. We need to finish that.
Yeah, but so the question is, as a boss, rather than being assertive, and maybe we should define what sort of assertiveness is. Assertiveness is saying, I feel XYZ.
Mhm.
I would like you to do ABC, and I'm not willing, or I'm willing to do LMN. Okay.
Right.
So
Well,
the assertive boss is going to say, Uh, I'm, I'm, I'm upset this report isn't done and I want it to get done by 3 o'clock, right?
yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The question is, how far do you think you should go with the sort of suggestions? So if report is not done, you could say many different things if you're a boss. You can say, well, I suggest you um, put off all the other things and make it a priority. It's one suggestion. Or you can say, I suggest you compose yourself, you pick up your stuff and do the right thing. That's a completely different suggestion.
Mhm.
Or you can say, you should really pay attention. That's another suggestion. And there's a different degrees of being controlling here.
Yeah, but again, we talked about suggestions. So before you make a suggestion, again, I'm going to make sure I'm connected with a person. So I'm imagining you've been working hard on the report. So that's an affirmation. I'm giving a compliment. And then I might ask a question before I give a suggestion. So can you help me understand what your time frame is? When do you expect you'll be able to get it done?
Mhm.
And if they say, oh, I can't get it done till tomorrow, and then you say, well, um, help me understand that. Why not until tomorrow? And then you might say, so what can we do? How can I help you? Because I have a deadline, I have to pass it on at 3 o'clock. So what can we do to make that happen? So that's asking a question.
Yeah,
I haven't once given a suggestion myself. I'm asking them for their ideas.
sure. Yeah, that's very gentle approach. I would say it's a negotiation approach. What if you really want, what if you really need to make suggestion? How would you go about this?
Well, can I give you a personal example of a situation I was caught in recently?
Sure, absolutely.
So I own the building where I'm a therapist, and there's a huge company that's my tenant. And they have lock boxes on the thermostat, and they wouldn't give me a key to the thermostat. And I own the building. I'm in Florida, and the air conditioning is always pumping away. So I have to talk to an operations person. So first I want to make a connection with her. And so I'm on Teams. I don't know if you know what that is. And
Mhm.
I say, hey, Cece, how are you doing? And she was in up to her neck and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're having to deal with all that right now. Wi-Fi issues are so awful. And so I'm just wondering, the key to the lockbox is offsite, it's not in the building. And I'm concerned because if the air conditioning needs to be fixed, they need a key to the lockbox. So what should happen? So I'm giving her context. I'm not saying to her, believe me, I want to say to her, why aren't you? I own this building. Why don't you give me the key to the lockbox? Which is not a question. You should give me the key to the lockbox. I own the building. But I don't do that. I have to, keep a low profile. And so, how are we going to handle it if the air conditioning breaks down and I have to call the air conditioning people? And next day, I have the key to the lockbox.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And
But
oftentimes
I
we
can't
think,
emphasize enough, even if the boss is in a rush, you first have to make a connection with
yeah,
the employee.
yeah, absolutely. And when you assert, it feels always feels like the shortest path, and you
Mm,
just want to tell them, and they just do, and that's very easy, very quick.
mm-hmm.
But it appears to be not the shortest path. It appears to be the wrong path. You actually break something, that you break the relationship, you break that connection, or you face defensiveness, you face resistance, and that becomes difficult. And now what you do?
Yeah, and then I'm a neuroscience nerd, so when you assert hard, you need to get this report done by a certain time. That's of course an order. And what you're going to do is you're going to flood the other person with adrenaline. So what does adrenaline do to the body? It takes blood out of your brain and it puts it in your arms for fighting and your legs for fleeing. So I always say to people, my couples that I see, When you're arguing, you're drunk on adrenaline. You're temporarily insane or stupid. So if you take the other approach and you say, oh, I can see you've been working hard on this report, you're giving them a pinch of endorphins, which is the happy hormone. And then when you say, so I know you're absolutely doing your best. I'm on a bind myself. How can we get it done before the end of the day? That's a question gives people dopamine. It's the rewarding neurotransmitter, and it actually puts blood in their forebrain. So you're helping people think.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it. And it always it's always tendency to think what's logical,
Mm-hmm,
and you're thinking like, well, that's obvious, that's so logical, and you try to overpower people with your brain, so to speak,
mm-hmm.
and you try to give them kind of put them in a corner logically, so they would just naturally come up with the right answer. But this is not really the good place to be, because it actually causes bad emotions. It causes certain hormones in your body that would actually incapacitate people. So
Yes.
you can't really incapacitate people and hoping that they will give you the perfect answer. You need to go the other way. So um, we are a little bit short on time here, starting to run out of time. I wanted to get to, maybe a core of it. So what skills you're teaching, how those are different from what other experts are teaching?
Oh, other experts. Um, Number one, they teach being assertive, which is, I want this from you because I feel blah, blah, blah. So would you do this because or my feelings are hurt because I would like blah, blah, blah. It used to be, I feel X when you do Y, but that's actually blaming.
Hmm.
So I feel X and I would like Y.
Hmm.
And that's what people teach. But when you do that, when that's your first move, when you assert yourself, in some cases, you need to expect to be attacked. This is especially common in families, but workplaces are recreated families.
Hmm.
So, boss, um, subordinate is a parent-child dynamic. So that I disagree with being assertive in this. The first move is you have to understand the situation. I'm always telling people you have to ask questions. It's like getting spies into another country. Why? Help me understand why. What's the delay on the report? And I'm thinking in my head, oh, I bet they're over editing. They're trying to get it just right or something. Or maybe they've been texting. I don't know. So maybe they've been looking at their phone. But whatever they're doing, I'm still going to say, you're a good worker, so I really thought you would have it done by now. So if you put in a compliment first, you're putting them at ease and they might be more willing to answer your question.
Yeah,
Also
absolutely.
coming up with this new technique of giving the compliment first, you might be gaslighting them. They might be a horrible worker who's always at the getting coffee and talking to other people, and you say, "You're a really good worker." That's a gaslight, right? So I don't understand why this hasn't gotten done yet. I'm sure you have an answer or you have a plan to have it to me when I need it. Now that's hypnosis.
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, we have another question here from Adeline. And Adeline, if you would like to ask this question live, so maybe you can unmute yourself and ask this question. So it will be great.
Sure. Hi, Lat. Hi, Kate. Nice to see you all. Thanks for the session. Great session. I was just curious about bystanders. What role do bystanders play in bullying situations and how they could also effectively intervene to support the situations?
Yeah, so that's kind of the example I was giving of this. Um, I think he's a sociopath, this dad who was insulting his daughter. So one
Mhm.
thing that bystander wants to do, if you have the skills, you want to draw the fire to you, and then you can disarm it. Adeline, would you happen to have a bystander situation where you see someone else being ordered or criticized?
Yeah, exactly. In meetings, when there's a group meeting and the colleagues are being criticized. And so
Oh,
it's an uncomfortable situation because then you can see between the two persons, but then it's in a public meeting.
yeah. So if you see a colleague being criticized, you might say to the critic, oh, I can see how important it is to you to help so and so do X, Y, Z.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion to intervene to the situation.
Yeah. So and also, or you could say, oh, so let's say a coworker is giving another person an order. So you want to euphemize that word, and you can say, oh, I see you just gave Mary a suggestion, and so you really want to be helpful to her. So uh, part of what I'm doing, I really like to name behavior. You just gave her a suggestion. What else might somebody do? And I don't know how to euphemize an order. Oh, you just told so and so that they should do blah blah blah, and it's important to you to get things done in the right way quickly. So you're keeping the focus on the other person as a bystander. It's all about you want to keep the focus on the critic or controlling person.
Mhm. That's a good strategy, Kate, and especially in disarming situation when you see somebody goes over the top and they not being appropriate. You don't want to start a fight as a bystander and take sides, but you want to uh, name that behavior and kind of bring to the surface the fact that we are all uh, respectful people and we need to figure out like how we communicate. And suddenly you um, give a clue to the offender that we need to improve that situation by just naming what's going on. And I think that it's important to practice those scenarios when you, let's say, you experience something at work, when you uh, or maybe at home, or maybe in some other situation, you think like, what is the best answer? What should I do? Bring this to Kate, and Kate is looking for this. She actually is very excited to work with you on that and come up with the different solutions for that, because this is all about finding that balance between being aggressive and shutting down and being a victim, and finding the right balance there so you could actually uh, with the self-respect, the sense of self-respect, and also respectfully to others, just diminish their effort to attack and diminish their effort to push and let them know.
But can I just ask you, how much time do we have? Because you're saying something really important that I want to mention.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I see that we are almost uh, we actually we have 15 minutes actually. So
Oh, we
we
do have time, 15 minutes. So we end at 1, is that
sounds
right?
like, yeah, sounds like it. Yeah.
So you're using the word respect. So since we have a little time. I'm going to ask you, what do you mean by respect?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in my mind, respect is it actually comes from a Latin word that that translates as regard. So that means thinking of others, taking into account others, what their interests are, what their emotions are, what they think about it, what they feel about it, what they want, their values, their um, self-evaluation, who they are, how they see themselves. That's respectful.
Yeah, and I would say, like, I love etymology. So spec means to see.
Mhm,
So it's like to see again.
mhm.
And again, I can't say it enough. People want to be seen. So if respect is a big word for you that you use a lot, you might fall into the trap of like, oh my God, these people are being so disrespectful. So then you're judging them. So you have to switch into modeling respect. So when somebody's being disrespectful, you need to show the disrespectful person disrespect. So yeah, it happened to me yesterday. Oh my gosh. This one of my clients figured out who I voted for, and he said, I can't see you anymore. It was like, and his wife she was saying, no, let's talk about our issues. And I said, no, this is important. And he said, I have a wall coming up now. And I could tell, I could see he had a wall. And I said, yeah, I know. It's really scary what's happening today. And there were some points I could agree with him on from his political point of view. And I said, I totally get it. You know, this mistake was made and that mistake was made. And so I had to make sure that I connected with him. Well, so I guess people would say he was being disrespectful of my position because I'm a professional and he's saying, I can't see you anymore. But I had to disarm him and I had to find a way of connecting with him.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And respect, I would say respect is the first step to build bridges. So um, i- usually when people get into the disrespectful cycle, it's usually mutual. So if you
Mhm,
see somebody disrespected you, first tendency is to say like, well, so 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 be it. Like I will disrespect you back.
mhm,
And that's a trap. So we cannot really do that because it doesn't help anyone, first of all. And
mhm.
second of all, it creates disrespect creates um unsafety, essentially. So it destroys safety. Why is that? Imagine how comfortable you would be around someone who disregards your interests, your emotions, and your values. It will not be comfortable, right?
Yeah. So, Vlad, what is it like for you to say some people will be disrespectful?
Mhm.
It's reality. Expect disrespect.
Expect
Yeah,
disrespect.
I
I
was with
like it.
a client he's brilliant. And he starts quoting Marcus Aurelius to me. And I have the Marcus Aurelius quote on my desk. And I can't remember the whole quote, but it's something like, I wake up every morning expecting that I'm going to meet awful people. The whole thing, if anybody knows it. And I know some people are on this chat who are very good with Googling and getting some things. But, and then he ends, I wake up every morning knowing I'm going to meet controlling, critical people, people who will be disrespectful of me. And I need to remember that we are all humans and that I can love them in spite of who they are and that we have a connection. So expecting disrespect. Marcus Aurelius, if you don't know him, he was a really great philosopher.
Yeah,
Also a
absolutely.
Roman
Stoic. Stoicism. Yeah, I admire that. And Kate, I think we have another question from Falah. And Falah, maybe if you want to ask a question live, what's your comment about, that you just put in the chat about maybe somebody say we are not going anywhere, right? In which circumstances do you see that?
You want to unmic? Yeah, there we go.
Yep. No, I do have a lot of questions, but I don't think we have enough time. But I think this is about like when you want to let somebody out of your life and that this person is just taking advantage of your space, safe space, and now you don't want to ruin the relationship and you just want to tell this person, I just can't, all right, just this can't go any further. And then how do you politely tell them that this is it, bro? I mean, sis, whatever. This I can't anymore help you anymore, whatever, or hang out with you because you're toxic.
Well,
Great question. Thank you.
Bella, this is a really good example of when you need to be assertive. Everything I've said about being assertive, but this gets into setting boundaries. And I don't know all the context of what you're talking about, but so one of my partners once told me the best thing to say is just to say to people, this isn't working out. And that's an assertive statement, and you're showing your hand, but I don't know if that answers your question. Your mic,
So yeah, you're muted, Falah.
Um, how about like I say this and then they get defensive, or they're saying, hey, we're good together or something, or we like your company, but um, the thing is you don't want the company because of bad things that happen.
Oh, so you say, I think I don't think this is working out. And then can we role play it? What are they going to say? You be them, I'll be you.
Mm, let's say a person is teaching you bad habits and is now encouraging you to go further and maybe try to break the law or try to
Oh,
like challenge authority, and you're like, dude, I think I want to cut this right now, and this person is just not taking no for an answer.
I see. Okay. So, so you want me to do X, is that right? Am I getting you right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want me to falsify my tax report, maybe.
Yep. Let's say that. Yes.
Yeah, and huh. That's an idea. I could falsify my tax report. I could not report everything that I'm taking in. But I don't know. I I will I don't know. There seems like there's a reason why I wouldn't do that. Can you figure out what it is? You're muted again.
Yeah.
No, I was just signaling, is it okay to speak?
Mm-mm.
uh, um, this speech is enough to like stop them in their tracks, or I think it'll get them to be a bit defensive about themselves. Yeah?
Yeah, well, I'm not, again, I'm putting the ball in their court, and that's a real insight-oriented question. If I say, can you figure out why I don't want to falsify my taxes?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what my reason is. maybe you know me better than I know myself.
Yeah, yeah. That's very smart, to put it back on their court, so they would actually start thinking about it, not you, because it's obvious, but you want them to think, and you want them to speak about this. And I heard that it kind of psychological. So when we speak, we actually create the neurological paths in our
Mhm.
brain, and when we listen, it doesn't happen that much. So you actually, when you make them speak about it, they start thinking about this very actively, and it you know they may actually come up with the reasons for you
Mhm.
not to do bad things. So that's very smart. We have another question from Jess. I wanted to move on. So Jess, if you would like to ask a question, it will be great if you want to do it live.
Oh yeah, I'll just read from what I wrote.
Mhm.
So, can we use the same disarming techniques for both aggressive and passive aggressive people, or is there a different approach? So there are some
Oh, that's a
examples.
wonderful question. Jess, can you give an example of being passive aggressive? Can you?
I guess I'll have to do it myself since no one else seems to be able to. And I'm wondering, like, if we agree, would it provoke the person saying it?
Well, are you okay with role playing it real quick?
Can Vlad and Kate do it?
Oh, sure,
I
sure.
want the pros. I want the pros.
Mhm.
All right, I can read it for you, and I can say, I guess I'll have to do it myself since no one else seems to be able to.
You know, I could be wrong, but Vlad, it seems like maybe you want somebody else to do it.
Well, if nobody able to do it, then I guess I have to do it myself.
Hmm. Yeah, well, you might have to end up doing it yourself. Is there somebody who you would like to be able to do it other than you?
That will be great.
Okay. What caused you to say that?
Yeah, it's very supportive what you say to
Mhm.
me. It's definitely not contrived, but actually it's attentive. So what's important for passive aggressive people or passive aggressive behavior, I would say, not people, because we all kind of fall into that once in a while, including myself. So I may say something passive aggressive, but the thing is, it's kind of like a signal. Please come push my empathy button. Please, I need it now. Tell me something empathetic. And when you say it seems like you want something, you're actually demonstrating that you're paying attention. You're not dismissing. It's like, okay, let's move on.
And I was thinking, you know, I always come up with even better and better things.
Hmm.
And I'd also want to say, you know, it's really hard when you're the only one
Yeah,
doing everything to ask other people to help you.
yeah,
You have
yeah,
people, they might reject you, they might call you names. So I get it, you're having a hard time asking people to
yeah,
to ask for help.
exactly. Yeah. So the thing is, I like your second response even more because
Mhm.
it sounds like it taps into not what people said, but why they said that.
Yes, yes, getting to the motive. Uh-huh.
Get into the motive. Yeah. So from this perspective, if you hear, and just probably that will answer your question, if you hear a passive aggressive comment, it would be helpful to figure out why they say that. And you could do it by assumptive staple label, or maybe Kate, maybe there's a question, or maybe something else, maybe some other technique that you can. But the thing is that the purpose is to get to know why they say that.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of ways to start with that one. Oh, everybody's left you holding the bag, huh? You know, you just start out naming what's going on. And
Mhm.
it feels it certainly does seem like you're gonna have to do it, like there's no help around.
Yeah.
What's the expression of drowning drowning when you're in a pool of water or something?
Mhm.
Or I don't know, I'm messing it up. But at any rate, just naming what you're seeing, being observant, uh, that's a form of mindfulness. You know, people think mindfulness is meditation, but it's also being mindful of what's happening around you and really seeing it just as it is without judging.
Mhm.
Oh, it's hard for you to ask for help. I get that.
Very simple, very effective.
Yeah.
Very supportive. And Kate, thank you very much. We actually coming up to the point when we need to wrap up the conversation. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. It's super interesting. It's amazing. So I want to thank you for this. And the last thing I want to ask you is, if anyone wants to improve this, what do you think, you know, somebody making the first steps to get better at disarming people and self-empower
Well,
in
there are some links to some books in chat. For me, it helps to read books. I need books with tons of examples. But then the other thing I would say is have some one-liners. And one of my clients, one of my one-liners is that so? There's a whole Zen story on, is that so? And she was like, oh, I said, is that so? And the person stopped bothering me. So have
that's
a few one-liners. Thank you is a great one-liner. You have big ears. Thanks. Thanks for noticing. You know, so thank
notice.
you is a wonderful one-liner. Is that so?
Yeah.
You know,
Another one that I got from your session is uh, what it feels like. What it feels like being in
yeah,
that
what is
position.
that like for you? That's
What's
my
that
favorite
like for you?
question now.
Yeah, what's that like for you? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, well, thank you everybody for your participation. You've been a fantastic audience and so many great questions here. It was an awesome discussion. Keith, thank you very much for answering all these questions, and I'm sure you have much more to tell. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. So, I want to remind everybody that communication is an active skill. So, what that means, you need to actually practice it. It's kind of
Mhm.
like kung fu, and there's a book you can't teach a kid to ride a bicycle by a book or something like that.
Mm.
I have another analogy. If you want to learn kung fu, you can't just watch movies, kung fu movies, because it will not make you a kung fu master. You actually have to go to the dojo and practice. Sometimes go to the competition and challenge yourself with something. So um, uh, make an effort. Make an effort to get better because it's a life skill. It will help you the whole perspective. If you're a young person, it will be serving you the whole life. It will actually improve your career. It will boost your results. You will build bridges with people. You will know how to unify and lead. You will actually will understand how to collaborate and find a solution, how to negotiate, because disarming and negotiations are kind of borderlines. It's
Mhm.
very, very close. And also, what's the most important, it will improve your awareness of what's going on. You will never be confused of what's happening here. What just happened here? I don't understand, you know? So it will not be puzzling. You will be more comfortable talking to people, and it will serve you the whole life. If you're not a young person, it is still helpful because you probably take care of others. You need to know how to assert yourself without being controlling. You
Mhm.
probably would like to know how to make better connections with the people, and all these young people, they want to do what they want to do. They don't care about us who you trying to teach them and give them a pearl, a piece of value. They want to go and do whatever they want, and they will try everything themselves. But it's our responsibility to build that connection, build that bridge, and demonstrate the younger what the right behavior is, so they'll learn from us, not from their peers and whatever is going on there. So we need to be able to pinpoint that, teach them, provide
And
good examples.
final word here is like everybody knows the word assert and stand up. I want to get in people's vocabulary. You want to engage with people. It's very different. Engaging, make connection with people rather than asserting and standing up.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you very much, Kate. And I would like to invite everybody to the negotiation practice community. It's the first month is free. After that, it's only under $30 per month, so it's pretty cheap. You will actually get a lot of value there. It's a very friendly environment, and many people join to learn different skills, including bulletproof, including negotiation, including the de-escalation techniques, managing emotions, and active listening. We have a class on reflective listening as well. And we also had a conversation about managing emotions with Raj. If you would like to go to my page and look at that, there's a whole session we recorded about that, so you can do that. So everyone would benefit from that. So I put the link in the chat to Negotiation Practice Community. Feel free to join. Kate's sessions are every Sunday, unless there's some event going on. So it's pretty consistent. So please join us and connect with Kate. And Kate, would you like to put your email there, your contact information in the chat? Let me find that. So shoot a message to Kate and ask her a question. She will be happy to see your situation, and she will be happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, one thing I'd really like is, I don't know if we put the Facebook bully proof in. You can ask questions on there. I would love, because all I'm doing is giving my examples. But I don't know if we had the link to the Facebook group. And you can say, somebody said blah, blah, blah to me. How should I respond? And I'll give a response, and hopefully other people in the group will give a response.
So I will do this. I will put the Negotiation Practice Community Facebook group. It's free. You can join there. Kate is always there, and she can probably provide you other information, including the other Facebook groups that you can join. Sounds good? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Kate.
Thank
It's a
you so
pleasure.
much.
Yeah, absolutely. So take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day.